Welcome back to the Telusive Tech Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we're joined with our routine. Wow, very professional this week, Randy. You've got the tie and the tie.
and the tie. You know, I went downstairs to try to find tin foil, realized that we have no aluminum foil. So,
oh, shoot.
Yeah.
I should have brought mine.
Well, I didn't. So instead, I was like, all right, how can I zhuzh up today's show? I wore this in the hopes that, you know, if you guys recall, I normally dress very sophisticated and professional like this when there's an Apple event. And it kind of felt like there was, but I can see why there wasn't. So today's episode is dedicated to Apple News Week.
And brought to you by the Apple Pencil Gen 1 with a lightning port.
I did not. That just gave me cancer.
This episode is sponsored by the worst stylist of
Also,
all
I
time.
guess before we get into that, I did find from last week, we discussed this, my Pixel Buds 2, in which for the people who watch on YouTube, I am showing them off.
Was that the 2s? I thought that was the first gen.
Did I say Pixel Bud 2? The Pixel Buds.
Yes.
Maybe I'm thinking about
Pixel Buds 1 that came out with the Pixel 2, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Pixel 2 XL with the Gen 1 Pixel Buds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I charged them
Naughty,
up.
While we're on the
Mike.
subject of bad hardware, go ahead.
You're mixing up tech here.
Yeah, it still looks pretty good. I don't know. I think they're pretty nice looking. But
Yeah.
It just looks... Show me, pretend you're taking them out of your ears and show me how you put them away.
All right, I'm going to have to take off my headset, so don't say any naughty words about me.
Well, I said pretend, but...
I'm doing it anyways.
Hey,
Mike
Drew,
is a great person.
did you
we
ever...
appreciate him so much.
As he's doing this, he said don't say anything, so... you know, statistically, we had to have had at least one gay president.
I feel better about America now. Thanks, Randy.
Yeah. Statistically, I mean, like,
That's cool.
you can't go these many... not one of them? Come on.
Was there a president that wasn't married?
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Who?
I mean,
right.
you put me on the spot.
Pretty good.
I definitely didn't say anything controversial. If anything, I said something very
Were you
progressive and
bad-mouthing
woke.
Jimmy Carter again?
It was presidential.
It was
subject,
presidential.
but
Oh, okay.
I feel like Randy's always about to say something really terrible, and then does it.
I'm about to say the word.
Oh, Drew, whatever do you mean?
Okay, so now you're done with the Pixel Buds for good. This is the last time you wear them.
We'll
Ever.
forget anything I just said.
How do you put them in the case? How long does it take?
Here, time me, I guess.
Go.
Okay, I'm timing.
So I think the last president who wasn't married was probably... Oh, so he is listening. He can hear me.
I
Okay.
can barely hear
That's
you.
long. I would have taken out my AirPods Pro and put them right back in before that happened.
Yeah,
I
you got the
could've-
difference
yeah.
between having a cord and not having a cord in a very small area. So,
But what's the point of wireless headphones if you still have to...
well,
It's wireless because it's not to his phone.
exactly. That's the answer.
Come
It's
on.
less wires, but it's not wireless.
I think
It's
I don't know. It's a great way to tie the batteries
I don't
together
know.
and also provide some way for it to hang on you instead of. I think it's like the initial AirPod worries, in which many people have experienced this as well. If the AirPod falls out of your ear when you're running or something else, it could potentially fall into a drain pipe on the ground or something like that. It's all gross and something like that. At least with this wire, if it falls out, it kind of just droops down onto your shoulder, and then more than likely the other pod is still in your ear or bud, I guess. So
Do you remember what the battery life was on those?
that's a great question.
I'll look it up.
I want to say that I got at least 2 to 3 hours on it, and then had to put it back. Maybe more than that. I'm not too sure. Maybe 2 or 3 hours plus. And I had to put it back in the
It says
case.
up to 11 hours.
Okay, well, never
That's
mind.
pretty good.
Maybe I'm just thinking about the time I had before or between classes, because that's when I mainly used them. But anyways, found them. I'll test them out probably this week. See if I can tie them to the iPhone and all that, or maybe the computer. And
You don't have to do that. I hope you know.
I know,
We
but I'm
don't
going to do it
expect you
anyways. All right, Apple Sheep, show your true
All right,
colors.
you twisted my arm. I'm going to go full Pixel for a month just to see if I could do it.
We'll take note of his experience.
Basically, yeah.
Speaking of experience, oh sorry,
No, go ahead. I was about to segue too.
Oh, okay. These AirPods Pro, good and bad news update on my journey again. I went from foam to large little tips.
Large little tips.
And large little tips.
From foam to large.
Yeah.
Wumbo.
But so the large tips fit better, but they actually started hurting my ear. So now, for the last 2 or 3 days, I've been wearing the medium or the one that medium is the basic one, the one that it comes in, right? Anyway, I went medium, and they slide a little bit. How I remember that uncomfortable sliding feeling where you have to go like this and push in, but they don't hurt my ears. So I'm at this weird crossroads. It's like, do I want better fit or comfortability? Comfortability, is that a word? I want to be comfortable.
Comfortability.
So, I think the conclusion of these AirPods. I think we will conclude when I finally cave and just get new AirPods Pro 2 for.
It is inevitable.
Well, I was thinking about this, Mike. It is inevitable because I keep thinking I'm closer to Drew's timeline about getting new AirPods Pro, but I'm like when he got his replaced, but I'm not. I went back. It's been a year since my AirPods Pro got their replacement through the AppleCare thing, and
right.
I didn't realize that much time has passed. So the other day, I was wearing them, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Drew's right. He can go a whole podcast, so I could go a couple hours nonstop with this. And I'll even have transparency on, and let me just do my chores around the house. Side note, as fellow homeowners, I don't know what it is. I've been enjoying watering the lawn. And that is not a euphemism. Like, I'm not peeing outside. Yeah, all right.
We're in California. We don't know what it's like to water your lawn.
No, that's why I did it. I was like, oh, Kika went to go pee, and I don't want her pee to kill my lawn.
She was also watering the lawn.
Kika is also, but she's killing it too. So, as I say, water. Drew takes a drink of his water. Smart man. So like right there, starts slipping out.
That's my water quota usage of the day. I only have that bottle, and then
I smile once, and then the thing starts to slip out. Yeah, well, you met your water quota. But anyway, so
you need to hit the stem in your piercing.
I've tried that. It almost worked. I took out my my plug here, and the first gen AirPods, I tried slipping it through, and it was almost a 1-for-1 fit of how the hole is. And I was like, oh, this is going to feel weird. But then I was like, I might stretch my ear in a way that I don't want.
Ears are going to be like stretched up and out.
Earpods.
These are now we've gone full circle. They're earpods.
Low pods.
Back to regular ear.
Yeah. So anyway, I watered the grass and I was just doing chores. And I didn't make it the full 3 hours like I thought. I got to 3.
They've degraded, huh?
And it went boop, 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 boop. I was like, oh no. I looked. I was like, all right. I mean, I think I could get another 30 minutes or so out of it. But I realized I am not on the same trajectory as Drew is with his freshly new minted AirPods. However, I'm not just going to jump and buy the new AirPods Pro 2. I will wait. Drew said it in his recap video either this week or last. I don't remember. At some point. It's spot on. AirPods is one of those things like Apple Watches, to be fair, unless you found what you were looking for on Certified Refurbished or something. But accessories are one of those things that wait until there's like a Amazon deal, Black Friday, holidays around the corner. Wait for one of those things. When them suckers go on sale for real, I'll probably then pick up a pair of the second gen. And if I don't, like if they're not on sale enough, then I'll ride them to the ground. But I'm purposely wearing AirPods today, not for its comfort or because it's slipping or the fit. I just want to run this test now with you guys between tech and EV. We're doing tech today first. And I want to see, is it true it's going to boop, 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 boop. And if it infringes on work, then that's something I need to consider.
There you go.
Well.
Or you could just use your over-ears again.
They're right
no,
here. Yeah.
That's unrealistic. If they don't work throughout 2 podcasts, then they're not worth it. Throw them away. Get new AirPods.
Yeah.
If you're nothing without the AirPods, then you shouldn't have it. Or something like that.
Sometimes I think Steel Man said that or something, or
Aluminum
Copper
Man.
Man. Something.
Aluminum
Diamond
Gentleman.
Aluminum.
Man. Steel Boy.
Pretty much. Okay, well, fair enough. I bet you'll find some AirPods Pro under $200 in the next couple months, probably.
They'll come around.
Just wait a little
Second
longer,
gen?
and you'll. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're already like $220 on Amazon, so I think they'll probably dip below that.
I'm waiting to see if I'm comparing and contrasting. So I do this thing. Actually, I'm just talking to you, Mike, and audience. But I text Drew like frugal updates sometimes when it comes to like pricing on Apple products that I've been eyeballing. And I do this thing where I compare what the military discount is to Amazon, because Apple has, most of the time, they have a better military or student discount. So whether you connect your veteran information with the VA with Apple, or your .edu email with Apple, like most of the time there's a better deal that goes through Apple straight from the website. I was like, that's awesome. And sometimes Amazon has the better deal just in-house. And so I share this with you, Mike, and maybe the audience as well, that if I'm going to promote Apple products, I'm going to promote frugal spending first and foremost, in a time where we're getting Apple news this week and maybe next week and stuff like that. Like there's always workarounds on stuff like that. And from personal experience, we've been talking about the stainless steel Series 7 Apple Watch and having that replace this. And Drew found the perfect, exactly this one on the certified refurbish. That one right there. And I was like, that's cool. Does the certified refurbish price go hand in hand with the military discount? And it does. It took off another $100. I was like, oh my God.
Whoa.
400 fully subsidized.
Yes,
400 and something 450.
Fully subsidized.
You get a Series 7 refurbished for less than $500. I haven't bought it yet because it takes it has to pass the chain of command in the household to hey.
Starts with Kika.
Yeah.
Or we work up to Kika. Yeah.
It ends with Kika's the one. All she does is she signs the paperwork. It has to go through my supervisor first, which is Brittany, and I'm like, oh man. And great, and now we'll have another person in that chain of commands next month, and he's going to
factor in the 3% cash back too.
Right.
I gotta take. This is why I love bringing this up to you guys. I gotta write those notes down.
I gotta tell you guys a story.
You can't afford to not buy this.
Stop it.
So
what's up,
that
Mike?
reminds me, Drew. So I was talking with my mother yesterday on the phone, and it was just a quick call and all that. And she's going on a vacation somewhere overseas, and she was telling me, "Oh yeah, I don't know. Should I bring this credit card or this credit card and all that?" And I'm like, "Do you have an Apple Card?" And she's like, "No, what's that?" I'm like, "Mom, you've bought an Apple products for as long as I've been alive, and you don't know what an Apple Card is." And she's like, "No." I'm like, "All right, well, let me tell you about the Apple Card." And as I'm telling her about it, she quickly hops on the computer. I think at the time I said, yeah, I think it takes maybe 10 minutes to do the whole deal or something like that. I forget. In the matter of 3 to 5 minutes, she gets it done before I could even finish my explanation of the Apple Card. And she's like, "Okay, I'm done." I'm like, "Done with what?" And she's like,
"I already got it.
I already got it. It's coming in 6 to 10 days as the physical card." I'm like, "You're joking with me." She's like, "No." It's right here. I added it to my wallet, and then it said, "Here, we'll send you your titanium card in the next 10 days."
Apple Card application process speed run.
It was insane. It was. I think my mother has basically the speed run for the Apple Card. It was probably the most hilarious thing ever. Just "Hey, have you heard of this thing?" "No. What is it about?" "All right, I have it." "What?" Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So now she gets
to sold on it.
Enjoy wonderful 2% cash back or however much she's getting back.
Nice.
So maybe she could also buy a Series 7. Nah.
Wish they had a referral program.
Yeah, that would be nice.
The final price, I just ran Drew's genius, Apple Card will give you 3%. It's he's right. So military discount with certified refurbished is $494. Apply 30%. Final price would be $479. That's cheaper than.
What's sales tax though?
Smaller than California.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, that's good.
I live in Virginia.
That's all that matters.
I've got less taxes than California.
When Brittany asks that, you can say, "Well, that's just me being a good citizen. That's just taxes." You know,
I have
pay that anyway.
I have another tax in her grilling me statement, but this particularly has to do with the Model 3. So let's just say her and I have been in a conflict this week, or the last 7 days. So this past weekend, we got in a conflict with the Model 3, and it has to do with taxes and all that. So I would love to hear final thoughts from you guys, but that is our teaser trailer for everyone to go check out EV if you are not subscribed
We've
yet.
got so much on EV. I don't know if it's going to happen.
I have a pillar of stuff for EV.
I'm plugging EV because I'm trying to get us to that 1,000 subscriber. Once we get 1,000 subscribers, I won't ask anymore.
Okay, fair enough. I won't either. I'll shut up at that point.
Yeah.
But it's 5.3%, I think, in your area, which is pretty good.
That's right.
So
Yep.
Wow.
and you work for the military, so you get that money back anyway, right?
They give it all back.
They get
Right.
That's how it works.
There's no caveats there.
Okay, we figured out the Series 7. We figured out the AirPods. We figured out the Pixel Buds. New iPads came out this week. New iPad Pros,
And
iPad
I have
10.
it here. No. Still the mini.
No, Mike has the only good iPad in the lineup right now,
Yep.
to be honest.
I made the
I
only
agree.
great choice. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about the announcement that came out earlier this week with
You are?
I
You
am.
are?
I am.
Why are you excited?
So
Tell us.
Here, you
okay.
dropped this tie. Here you go, King. This
Okay.
doesn't belong to me. This
What's funny
belongs
is
to you.
I've got a very similar tie.
You dropped this, King.
You dropped this, King.
Thank you.
All right, try making that.
Puts up.
Oh
Apple
God, he
Pencil
has
Gen
the
1.
first gen Apple Pencil.
There's a dead fly on it too. Anyways, I think the transition from having the camera on the top of the portrait screen orientation to now the top of the screen on a landscape orientation is a good idea in the fact that I find myself mainly using the iPad in landscape. I think many other people do when taking notes or other things like that. They also build the keyboard and everything else into that orientation, so it only makes sense with them selling folio covers and everything else like that to have the camera at the top of landscape mode instead of portrait mode. But I do think it's very weird that they're like, oh yes, it's a USB-C, but you still have to use Apple Pencil Gen 1, which doesn't have Lightning, and which I think I agreed with your video, Drew. They should have released a Gen 1.5 that has USB-C in it, or just brand it as Apple Pencil Gen 1, but then, I don't know, just say 2022 edition that has a USB-C port on the front of, or on the top of it. Or even just redesign it so it doesn't have this cap, right? Because I think many people lose this thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't only.
I was
because
at an
it doesn't
Apple
leave.
store once, and they were doing like a classroom session with a bunch of kids, and they just had removed all of the caps.
Mm-hmm.
They had a big cup that was literally just stuffed with Gen 1 caps because they didn't want the kids to lose the cap. So everyone was just using Apple Pencil 1s with the exposed lightning plug at the end, which looked really silly. And now, if your argument is iPad 10 is, for the children, it's for the classroom.
It's for the children.
They all have to have USB-C to Lightning adapters and cables and caps now to worry about on top of all this.
You're losing all your Lego
And the funny
pieces.
thing is, Apple Pencil 1 still, if you buy an Apple Pencil 1 today, it now comes with that adapter, even though you might be buying the iPad 9, which has no use for that adapter.
Right.
So it's like the most bizarre iPad hardware decision I think I've ever seen. I don't understand why they thought that was okay or why they think this is acceptable. To me, it's like incredibly ridiculous.
Yeah. I do think what they could have done better is sacrifice the charging speed and provided a smaller inductive charging area for Apple Pencil Gen 2 on this new iPad and have it either be on the top or on the side. I think I know, or someone on the Discord was educating me on the fact that if you even tried putting the Apple Pencil Gen 2 on the side, which used to be the top of the portrait mode version of it, it would extend to the power button or past it. And so it just wouldn't make sense to put it on
And
the
cover
side.
the speakers.
Yeah, even so, you can just take it off, right? It's magnetic. You can put it on the back. You can put it on the side, and it'll stick there as long as you're listening to whatever you're listening to. Because you're not running around with your iPad with it playing noise while like you're outside or anything like that. It's going to be inside your house or at your desk or somewhere else, in which you can easily just put the pencil down on that surface that you are also putting the iPad on, and then take your iPad somewhere else, and you're not going to lose the pencil that way. So I think they could have just minimized that induction charging area on the iPad and then put it on the top kind of near the camera or somewhere else and try to fit it in there, because I know that there's not that much room because it's an iPad. It's pretty sleek. So it would have been nice to put it somewhere around there, or even I don't know, just move the port of where the iPad charges to the other side where the power button is, which would seem kind of weird having the power button and the port right next to each other. But then on the other side, you now have a free side where it's just speakers, and you can just put the pencil there, and yeah, it covers the speakers a little bit. But that's my solution. I think that would have been nicer, but I think Apple's trying to find a quick solution because they didn't want to change up too much on their manufacturing side. So they're like, okay, I think we can take the hit with more dongles and all that, which actually generates more waste, which doesn't really align with their goals, but whatever. Anyways,
Yeah.
that was my take. I think it was very bad implementation, but I like the change with the camera.
I guess that's like the one silver lining in the whole thing is that camera location makes more sense, but not not at the cost of this is how the stylus works with it, in my opinion. And also the price is not great either.
Yeah.
It's not that cheap.
It increased.
It went up by over $100, which for the budget iPad, that's like a 40% price increase.
Maybe it's the first
And-
iPad to feel the effects of inflation and all that.
Yeah, really, because the iPad Air 5 didn't go up in price, and the Pros didn't, and budget iPad hasn't. The real budget iPad hasn't. How do you guys feel about the 9 and the 10 being on the lineup at the same time? Do you think that's okay, or do you think it's too many options at once?
Just think of how many iPhones we got right now. We got, I think, 12, 13, 14, right? Plus SE2 or SE3. No. I forget. Anyways, we have a whole bunch.
SE3, yeah.
SE3. We have a whole bunch of iPhones. So,
Because I got the tie, I'm going to act like this is a presentation. Good morning. Good morning, Taylor's Podcast. Good morning. What we need is a well-tried and true quadrant. That's clean it up. We just need a quadrant. You know me and Nick, wherever he may be. Rest peace be with him.
No longer with us.
Nick and I love a good quadrant, and and that's what the iPad needs. That's what iPhone needs. That's what Mac needs. It all need. I totally get the why. Like, oh no, reduce costs and manufacturing costs this and subsidize the price of that and the chip this, reuse chips on that because they're cheap. But I get it. I get it from an operational stance. But what's good for operations isn't what's good for marketing.
mm-hmm.
And that's the fundamental difference between Tim, who was an operations guy, and Steve, who was a marketing guy. And at the end of the day, they're both right because somebody's going to buy this. And to answer your first question, Drew, what do I think about all the there's too much overlap. Like if you do the circles that have an overlap, there's overlaps within inside those overlaps, and
That's like 16 overlaps.
that's like 16 overlaps. Well, that's just lazy marketing.
And it's just weird that you have to pick and choose. Like the iPad with the best FaceTime camera layout is also not an Air or a Pro. So you can't have Stage Manager and the good camera. You have to pick one or the other.
No, I totally get it.
Function keys on the cheap keyboard, but not the nice keyboard.
Why they never ported that to the MacBook? I mean, the iPad Pro. I will never understand. I suspect there will be an accessory upgrade happening in spring. I'm calling it no later than spring. We will get a Magic Keyboard for the iPad with the function keys. I will.
But you know why they don't put them there, right?
No,
it's because the floating design goes too far over. They would have to. Would they have to move the smart connector to the side like the iPad 10?
There is room. Look at that. I got that space right there. That's room all right there.
Mm-hmm.
You can.
But when it's tilted normally back.
Well, then you're reaching under a little bit.
To be honest with you, though, I don't know anybody who does this unless they're like using the Apple Pencil. Having it this far up like that, people are like, well, I will do it. Like, okay, sure, you do that, but how's that any different than having to making small adjustments to get to keys? To me, as a non-issue, no different than like, okay, so then you're gonna go with the iPad that has that, but then you're gonna plug your Apple Pencil.
And that iPad has a whole suite of compromises between the 60 hertz non-laminated.
I have so much to say that I don't know what to say first, but I guarantee how I use the iPad normally when it's open. I have this much headspace right there where function keys can go. Now, if I'm really doing it at an angle, then it's closer to this. There's still room. And if you look at the keyboard with those function keys, they narrow on the height side. A lot of them get narrowed down up there anyway. Think about it, like, I think it is that MacBook Air, the M1 MacBook Air, I believe. Anyway, it's such a non-issue that would make people like a pro device needs pro accessories. Thank you for having a charging port right here to open up the Thunderbolt that would be over here, pretending that I have an M2 or M1. Pretending I have Thunderbolt. And thank you for having a docking system where it doesn't intrude on anything with the Apple Pencil. But function keys, my goodness, like if there was. Why I'm so adamant that we will get a keyboard eventually with function keys for the iMac Pro is because I know we haven't talked to it yet. I'll just brush it now. Mac OS Lite or whatever. If we know what we want to see from the iPad, so I'm not going to dive into that. You would need function keys to utilize the most out of that arrangement. Putting the Apple Pencil on the side here, I don't personally care, and this might just be me, and I will concede its preference. I have never cared that the camera was to the left or to the right or to the bottom if putting it up here means you can't have the Apple Pencil up there, then keep the Apple Pencil up there. And just keep the camera to the side. It's a non-issue because Face ID still works.
That's how I feel about it. But
Face
I
ID
know people
works
that
in
don't
any
agree with
orientation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It does not matter because Face ID doesn't stop working. And if you're going to do Touch ID, then that really doesn't matter either about camera array of where it goes, because you need to use your biometrics with the fingerprint. But they're like, yeah, but doing FaceTime calls. Apple did software where the eyes go from looking like this to looking like this. So there's a software fix to it. And people are going to complain one way or the other. I'm leaning one way. People can fight against it. But all that to say that the iPad is flawed. And it's no surprise that like the iPad division at Apple is a cluster F. Like it is all messed up. And the only way you can have a unified front is if you put Mac OS on it, because at least then we can have a clearer vision. There's no vision.
Just add more to it. Just add
there's
more
no. What I'm saying is
I
there's
don't
no
think it would fix the
vision.
hardware line anymore. I think the hardware line has never been more distorted.
You would
but
have a better
I get the
understanding
feeling
if you need what you need from your hardware if you know what the software is going to do. Because think about it like this, Drew. We bought the hardware first thinking the software would catch up, and that shot us in the foot. So screw that strategy.
But I don't think, and I'm not suggesting that macOS would come to every iPad. It would be like a backdoor option for the pros. So that wouldn't fix the whole Air 10 thing.
So where I was getting at with that is one, put it on all the devices. That
That's
I
good
would.
right.
I know. I'm being a little facetious with it because of my disdain for iPad OS. I will admit that was not a real solution, but I am talking more in regards to accessories. The camera for the iPad is only a problem when you have the accessory Apple Pencil. If Apple Pencil wasn't a thing, you don't care where the hell that camera goes. You could go in the center. It can go up top. It can go on left, right. At that point, it doesn't really matter because the compromise there is where you're going to put the Apple Pencil. But if people care about Apple Pencil, then like who cares? The pros are so overclocked. Like we have all this stuff that we could do with M1 and M2 that you're like, great. It means nothing to anybody anymore. I've never seen so much. We talk about like frustrations. I've never seen so much unity in the Apple community than people saying, than people saying, just go get a certified refurbished or get a used 2018 using an A12 this or A14. Like I have never seen such unified fronts of people saying like, don't buy anything new unless it's the iPad Mini. Because the iPad Mini
We're all
is
locking
bang.
arms and marching down.
We might disagree about
Apple
how to move
One
forward,
Street.
but we are unified here. I haven't seen this type of unity since 9/11.
Oh my goodness. Here we go.
Bingo. Do you guys did you see the 9-minute event they posted? Like the video they uploaded?
Yeah.
In that video, their use case for the landscape camera was you'd be holding the iPad with your hands, and you're in landscape, and your hands are no longer covering up the camera anymore, like it does on every other iPad. They're like, see, look, this one is a more optimum viewing angle. And I have an old memory that I'm gonna bring up to throw back you guys to an idea Nick had years ago. And he might not even remember saying this. I don't even know if he recalls doing it. But we were having a very similar conversation back in the iPad Pro days. I think this was like 2018 or 2019. And we were bringing up that slight disadvantage of the camera on the iPad is off to the side, and we want it to be more on the landscape orientation. That's what it's like on our Macs. That's what we're used to. And I kept saying, but that's where the Apple Pencil 2 docks, and that's where that charge pad is, and you can't have those two things on top of each other. His solution, which I haven't seen brought up in a while, but it's kind of a controversial one, but I think would have been better than what Apple did was controversial already. So we're in controversial territory. I love it when I bring up something and people says, yeah, but Drew, people would complain about this. It's like, we're all complaining now.
Yeah.
Apple's not against you think they wouldn't complain about everybody having to use an adapter for their Apple Pencil 1 to work with that? It's like, they're not against complaining. You just got to pick your battles. But Nick suggested a sacrilegious design choice of putting the camera not directly in the middle. He said, what if you put it on the long top, but it wasn't directly in the center? It was just off by a couple inches. That way you could still have your Apple Pencil 2.
Yeah.
You could still have your landscape camera so that when you're holding it, you're not covering it up. It would be closer to that of the Mac. It wouldn't be exactly, but I think it would be a healthy compromise so that... Because I just think the Apple Pencil 1 needs to die. That's where they made the biggest mistake. I don't... Whatever the approach was, keeping around the Pencil 1 was the wrong call. There should have been no situation where that stayed. That is now the new Series 3 Apple Watch. Everyone's like, go away, go away. And it's like, I'm still here. For 8 years now, that's going to be haunting us on the store. There's still a cap. And I never thought that the iPad 9 Lightning dock approach would have looked like the good docking approach. But honestly, that looks better right now than the iPad 10 approach of it only works with this pencil and that pencil can't connect to that device. Apple Pencil 2 is like tenfold better a stylus approach of no cap, no adapter, no cable. You
get double tap features. You get more function
double
out
tap
of it.
Yeah, it's a better finish.
It's a better grip.
Narrower. You just drop it, and that's why we all love the iPad Mini so much. Is it got the best stylus support, and that's why people like the iPad Air and the Pro. It's like you fix the problem, but you're still upselling people on this problem that you solved over 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
So I think while that would have been a little controversial, you know, I could imagine that part of the Marquez video where he goes, it's a little weird. The camera's not right in the middle. But whatever. You know, I feel
How
like that would have been
Pixel
most people's
3A of this to be where the camera's just in a corner somewhere. I'm like, all right. Yeah.
Not necessarily right in the corner, but like if you divided the top of the iPad into 4 sections.
A
The way I
quadrant.
see
You
it.
love a good quadrant, right?
I do.
You put it at the like middle point. And that way you have room for the Apple Pencil 2 to dock. You still don't cover it up when you're holding it in landscape. It looks a little more natural. But it's a center stage camera, right? Like it'll zoom
That's
in.
what I'm saying. That's why it doesn't matter. The thing, it doesn't.
It's a wide angle lens.
Yeah.
If it's a little off,
Now,
who cares?
I
Like
do
that
have
would
a
be better than the situation right now where the adapter is back ordered. Did you guys see that?
That's hilarious.
The iPad 10s are arriving next week, but all of the adapters are pushed back a month.
Oh my god.
So
Can't use your
Wow.
pencil.
So
Or can't charge it
I have
the
a
normal way.
I have a question that I did not see answer, and maybe I didn't look at the spec page, so I don't really know. The new M2 iPad Pro, the 12.9 inch, is that also mini LED again, or did they scrap it? Is it gone?
yeah, the big one is mini LED. The 11-inch isn't. So very little changed.
I
Just slap
cannot.
Almost
an M2
nothing.
chip in it.
If even if Center Stage was only coming to, Stage Manager was only coming to the M1 or the M chip ones, I can't see a reason to recommend the M2 iPad Pro to any use case at all. Even creatives who need the stylus, who need to do the docking, like the M1 is.
I can't find one. No.
There's nothing the M2 offers that the M1 doesn't
Hover.
have. Screw that. That is the worst. Who cares? No.
I want to just scroll back a few videos and see if anyone once in 4 years of iPad Pros has asked for the hover feature. I literally never remember. Now that it's there, everyone's like, oh, the Galaxy Note had that. And it was like, yeah, but you never complained that it wasn't there. No one was
Yeah.
saying anything until, whoa, that's kind of... No, I haven't seen anyone really defend it either, to be fair. Sometimes there's divisiveness. You shouldn't buy it. You should buy it. Like with the 14 Plus, there was a lot of arguing going on. With the M2 iPad Pro, I haven't argued with anyone. I haven't found anyone. That's like,
it's a
"Well,
non-issue.
I like my hover.
If your best answer to that is that it's good to have the option that's there, you can say that literally about anything at any point in time, at any point on the timeline, and it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make any of it right. There is nothing
Plus,
proprietary.
the M2 chip is not even like that much faster than M1, and when it's
Nothing
in a
proprietary.
very small device without much of a cooling system, it can be more
Throttle?
prone to throttling. So yeah, it's
You can cook
it's
some eggs on
barely an upgrade.
I have to just double down here and say that if anyone's in the market of needing a bigger screen than an iPhone Pro within the last 2 or 3 years, so I'm even saying 12 Pro, if you need something bigger than that, I have and you buying something new, I have to say the Mini. I have to say the iPad Mini. On a budget sense, on a accessories and feature sense, on a practicality sense, and you can get the Mini I feel like you're my showroom person, Mike. You could get the mini with the folio case and the Apple Pencil, and still have more money saved up for other, fruitless
For
spending.
real things.
Yeah, like you can even max it out to the 256 and still have more money have more money saved over than if you were to get the base. Same thing, case, pencil, and base iPad Pro M2 12.9 inch, and not consider getting a MacBook at that point. MacBook Air or a MacBook Mac Mini even. Shoot, because now we're talking just dollars to the page for an Apple product. I'm not, after this week, I'm still not convinced that iPad has sold me on a reason to spend four figures on something, which is what you're getting at now when it comes to actually having the accessory, the ecosystem that they're trying to put that in vision.
Especially
for
because you never just buy the iPad Pro by itself. You always have to
especially
get it with
a Pro,
a folio cover or a keyboard, and all that's going to push it to the 4-figure market.
So I'm not sold. And just to hound it home one more time, you can sell me if you put Mac OS on it. But even then, I mean, Drew said this on podcast. I'm sure you've recapped it in your video. I wouldn't sell my 2018 iPad now to get an M chip iPad if it came with Mac OS, because then it's a redundancy for me. It's not replacing the MacBook Pro. You have
not the 14-inch or 16-inch, but I could see it competing with the M2 MacBook Pro. If you were just same chip, but one is in an iPad versus one is in a laptop, I could see some people saying, no, I want one device that can do the stylus or the cellular, or
people like two-in-ones.
And someone else could be like, no, I'd rather have the battery life and the ports, and then you can pick your battle. But
that's a tough call, because the MacBook Pro M2 has a fan, and I think that's more.
There's still advantages.
That's a tough one. Yeah, that's a tough one.
But the iPad Pro would have mini LED and 120 hertz and Face ID, and the MacBook would just be.
Is it really a Pro
hertz.
though? Because can you? And that's something we'll have to say. How bricked would this iPad styled Mac OS? How bricked would it be with efficiency when it comes to, let's use our use case, streaming, Final Cut, Logic for me, pro applications, or just multi-use things running simultaneously. I have 3 windows up, and as we speak, actually to even drive this point home even further, as we speak right now, I can't even show you. I'll do it. You guys on Discord are not going to see it, but people who are watching this on YouTube, I'm doing a transition on OBS right now. I am running Stage Manager right here, and so I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, the other part's kind of blocked off because it's cropped in. But I've been using Stage Manager almost as a test to see, like, how would this look like if it was on the iPad. And so you will see this in post, Drew, but I have 4 windows open right now, and I have different tabs for the different managers that go back, and right now, smooth, buttery, quick. It doesn't change anything. And if I was a professional using an iPad Pro with some Mac OS elements to it, and any of this formula for me hiccuped, bricked, stuttered, lagged, anything like that, I still can't
I don't see why it would. It's the same chip. It's an 8 gigs of RAM, M2 processor as the MacBook Pro. So whatever the MacBook could do, the iPad could do. Just the iPad would have worse battery life. That's really the only hardware difference.
I suspect heating. Go back to the throttling and heating up. I don't know how the Stage Manager.
Maybe not the Pro then, but the Air. The Air doesn't have a fan either. So.
Also, MacBook I don't think people are doing like dedicated streaming on their iPad unless it's like a TikTok or Snapchat or something like that, like live type of situation. Otherwise, it's not like they're managing a whole gaming stream from their iPad. That
and there's compromises crazy. For sure. There's definitely reasons to not replace a Mac with your iPad, assuming it was running Mac OS. But I guarantee you it could do a lot more than it's doing right now.
Oh, with iPad OS? Yeah.
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 With what iPad OS is currently capable of doing, it would still be a big upgrade. I just think people are overthinking it and turning into, oh, that would cannibalize such a... It's like, no, it wouldn't. It would just convince more people to spend money on iPads than right now, where everybody in the community is like, no, buy the old one. Like everyone's on the same page. Don't buy the new ones.
If I may, though.
And...
No.
The other thing I was going to say about why I'm not still sold about the iPad Pro, even if it had Mac OS on it, the MacBook Pro has more ports. I actually have the Thunderbolt going on all cylinders right now. Plus, the auxiliary cord that I use for my speaker monitor system, like to actually replace a setup for people who dock. And I'm not even thinking about docking from the sense of the USB-C hub. I'm thinking that like actually
Thanks
like
for specifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Well, because I remember the old. Anyway, doesn't matter. I'm thinking of different docks. An actual dock that clips into place, and it gives you all your ports.
Sure.
But
That's what we're all thinking.
Yes. Okay. What are you doing? So
The viewers will get it.
I find myself using all three USB-C slots, and I would happily take more if I could, and limiting to two, one being a power source. So really, you only get but the one is not very pro, and there are workarounds. Well, you could get the USB-C hub, and you could do this, and you could do that. But then we're going back to the dongle conversation, which like.
But that's my point as to why it won't cannibalize anything, because there's still reasons to buy a Mac. So there's nothing to worry about by adding this option to me. Like there's don't.
Would you replace your 2018 iPad for it?
No, because I already have a 14 or 16-inch MacBook Pro, but I acknowledge those are not what most people are buying. The most popular laptops are the M2 or M1 laptops, like the entry levels. And that's what the iPad Pro would be up against if it ran Mac OS. But because it doesn't, it's not even a discussion. It's like basically no one should buy that. If it had Mac OS, it'd be like, okay, this type of person should buy it. But I'm not going to say
with cellular connectivity.
People
with cellular connectivity. People talk about wanting a Mac that could have independent connectivity to the internet away from Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
I think we'll see something.
It'd be
like
a
that in the
cheaper
next
way to
decade,
get
at least. But
say again,
I think
Mike?
that's ready now. I think they'll be ready in the next decade, but I don't think that's ready now. So I think right now is the perfect time for the iPad to make that step to Mac OS first, to become a laptop-ish thing that you can take wherever you want. You can do all the Excel spreadsheets without having to do the tapping and all that. You can use a mouse. I mean, you can still do that right now. But I mean, all the other things that a MacBook can do, you can use with your iPad. And then that next step after that, that's like Gen 2 of this hybrid iPad, which is it connects to the internet like the Surface and all the other things. Or, sorry, it connects to cellular like the Surface and other things. So I think that's probably going to be the next best thing for it after we get this next step, which hopefully comes into being, which I think just the fact that the discussion is happening and that it's leaked through somehow is good enough for me, knowing that they're at least considering it and they're testing it out actively to see whether macOS should be on iPad, rather than just saying, nah, we're not going to do that, and like secretly like they're in R&D doing stuff, but like it's quite literally like the intern being like, I got to work kind of. Instead, it's like, I'm sure a couple engineers working on it. So, I don't know. It excites me, but yeah, I do think iPad's been lacking. I think Apple knows that from the whole community screaming at them. And this is a great way to get the community to stop screaming at them by making a USB-C iPad and then forcing you to use the Gen 1 Apple Pencil without a dongle somehow. But I digress.
Earlier, Mike, you sorry, what were you gonna say, Randy? I was segueing, but Mike was shaking his head when we brought up the asymmetrical camera placement. Are you fundamentally against that, or
No, that was me being sarcastic. I'm perfect.
Oh, okay.
From my experience with Center Stage on the studio display, the iPad, and I think the phone does it.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
It's perfectly fine. And like you said in your explanation, you could easily just crop that center stage so it looks like you're in the center and all that. It's not a big issue. Or you just hold your phone a little bit offset, which is just something that you learn to live with. And it's not like you're holding your phone like way out here just to get like a center angle like on your face for a selfie or whatever. It's a non-issue, and that's with a phone versus with an iPad. You're usually holding it with two hands, so you're just moving it over a little bit. So, yeah, I'm fully fine with a camera being offset, just that way you can fit the pencil on there.
I
Okay,
want to make
cool.
one more case for an older iPad Pro, whichever
Okay, is it
one you
blue?
choose to get.
Is it
2020, 2018, not 2022. Maybe
Even the M1.
I don't know. I don't know about the M1, but definitely an older that's at least 2 years, because here's something that the iPad Air, iPad Mini all lack, which only goes to the pros for some reason. And I'm like, I got a few things that would make me say, oh, get the iPad Air. You know, like there's a few things if they fixed it. First thing, sound quality, not 2-speaker array, but 4-speaker array. You got 1, 2, 3, 4.
You love a good quadrant.
I love a good quadrant. That's today's episode name. So you get 4 speakers. You get the now I'm speculating. I know I'm speculating here, but you get a proper the adapter on the back that will connect, like that mounts to it. Thus, universal, not universal, but you get multiple like folio or the keyboard or the Magic Keyboard, or if they do like the HomePod type of thing where you dock that. Like there's more use cases with the magnetic the little 3-prong thing in the back that you put
Smart
there.
connector. Yeah.
Smart connector. Both screen real estates, depending on your use case, are like great for promotion, because you get promotion with the pros with 2018. Yeah, I mean you go back to
That's
20.
a deal breaker for me, but I'm alone in that.
Yeah, you are alone in that. So if you care about promotion and over 1080p, resolution, you got Face ID, which works in any direction. The Apple Pencil, obviously, but all these things runs the latest OS, and it gets all the features now that was promised to only the the M1 at the time. So you lose literally nothing, and you potentially
External monitor support, but that's it. Yeah.
Wait, sorry guys, do we take that seriously? Is that a thing? Are we taking that seriously? I have to excuse me, sorry. Had to go off script here for a second. Are we seriously considering that? Is that a thing?
That's what I couldn't believe. There were a bunch of people saying that they didn't want Stage Manager unless they got external monitor support, and I was like, what are you talking about?
I have absolutely no idea what
How
you're
many
talking
people
about.
just have these monitors at their desks with USB-C ports just for their iPad and nothing else, and they're just...
I would
That's
go
what
out
they
of
wanna
my
use
way. If I'm docking my iPad to be more Mac, I would go out of my way not to extend it, but to mirror it. I would close the lid, and then there it is. I want my DeX experience out of it at that point. I would go out of my way to do that.
Does it work when it's closed? I never thought of that.
Well, no, but
Probably not.
I mean,
That would-
probably not. But
iPadOS would require work if it did that, where you could have like an external keyboard. That would require effort, which they don't like. So I'm guessing
Got
it
'em.
doesn't work. But
I think that would be fine if it works in your weird reality, Drew, where the phone becomes part of the computer, where like you can attach your phone to a monitor in some way, or like it.
whoa,
Here we go. You have the iPad, which actually plugs into the monitor, and then the iPad and the phone connect together in some way so that you get the speeds and storage. And then that's how you can use your external monitor, is you basically just attaching your iPad and your iPhone together with this big screen that you have on your... This is getting way too complicated and ridiculous.
No, I just mean like Macs, like what Randy's probably doing right now. When you plug them into an external monitor and then close them, the monitor stays on.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I don't know if anyone's tried, because they removed external monitor support from the latest iPadOS beta. But they've said that the M1 and M2 iPad Pros can do it with the full, Stage Manager extending monitor thing. Will that still work if you close the iPad and connect a keyboard and mouse to it? Like, can it stay closed in output? And
probably not.
I feel like not enough people use this feature to find out. Maybe
that's what I'm trying to say.
Test that.
Yeah,
it'd make much more sense to have the keyboard fold to the other side of the iPad and then just flip the iPad over so that the screen's face down, the keyboard is face up, and then all you need is a mouse.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's the only time that I think would maybe make more sense.
You can't do that with the Magic Keyboard case. You can only do that with the Magic Keyboard Folio, which is on the iPad 10, which doesn't get the... my God. See, I think... How do you guys feel about this? Because I feel like a lot of people appreciate the updated iPad 10 keyboard, because you can detach it easier, and you can rest it flat, and you can flip the keyboard around, which you can't do with the Pro keyboard. So do you want just a Magic Keyboard Folio brought to the Pros and then to move the smart connector to the side? Or would you rather them just add the function keys to the floating keyboard design? Do you prefer that look with the keyboard, with the iPad raised up higher, opposed to having a kickstand approach like the iPad 10 has?
I would both. I would want to actually re-engineer the accessories. I would want the floating system with the function keys, or the Folio. The design. Those are your only two options. I would do away with the Folio that just folds into the triangle and you can rest it that way, and then that's that. I would do away with the old keyboard design where like you one or two, like you kind of put them in their different slots, and then that's that.
Oh yeah, no.
I would
Those
do.
are dead.
I would do away with. I would do away with all that. I would offer. The only way the flat thing works, like the way the iPad 10 has it, is if you are a writer or a drawer. You're using your stylus a lot. The Apple Pencil having a flat surface, that works its best with nothing, rocking. As we speak, I'm actually drawing up a quadrant right now using the keyboard as my stand so I can write off of, but it involves my palm not making contact with the iPad, which I don't naturally do, and I don't like doing that. That fixes that problem with the iPad 10, the Folio. That you put it right there, because I know there's palm rejection and stuff like that, but I can't do that comfortably at this angle. And you have what they say, unlimited, universal angles of how you could set that up. It's a
kickstand.
It's a very surface approach to it, like what Microsoft Surface does, and I do like that. I really like that a lot.
They just straight up stole it. Yeah.
Yeah, please. No. Hey, I'm not against Apple stealing anything. I'm not against people.
Good artists create.
Yeah, that's and better artists steal. Like, people steal from Apple. Apple steals from them. I mean, if it works, it works. Like, I don't care. So. But the Magic Keyboard with the floating design, I feel like has more utility out of it, because you get the USB port to charge, because you have an actual screen that's working there with trackpad. And
where would you put that port on the kickstand design?
You can't.
I don't think you could.
It doesn't require a battery. You can't. And I would rather take another port and free up this. We got family news. We found from the baby shower in San Diego. My grandmother-in-law, she was taking the photos of everybody, and she finally sent us a drive, like a USB drive with photos that she was finally exported. And so we got in the mail and we sat at on our couch. I was like, oh, hey, cool. And I had the iPad with me this week. And I was like, hey, let's put it. And I just put it into the iPad. And Brittany was like, wait, the iPad does that? Because she thought it was just a charging. And I was like, yeah, USB-C. And she goes, I mean, I know what you're saying, but I never like made 2 and 2. It's like, yeah, no, here, watch. Boom. And I showed her. Like, look at me. I'm showing you how to use the iPad. Which is even more fun because full circle, she's the only reason why I ever got into iPad, because she had the iPad 2, which is right over there, still dead. But she was the first person I ever knew who had an iPad in my life. And she got me into iPad, back in 2016 or 2015. So I was like, nice. I'm teaching you things when you taught me things. And that convenience of just doing that simple, whatever daily life, whatever, like, that's kind of cool. I like that. And I would rather take that and have a floating screen that I can touch sometimes if I needed to, over unlimited, stand positions and then flat surface design so nothing rocks with the pencil. But that's because I don't really draw or write like that. So for my use case, no. But I don't discredit the Folio's design. I think it's a beautifully implemented design because they took it from Microsoft, and Microsoft kind of had a awesome strategy with that.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely advantages to it. I guess I just wish there was a way. I don't know if there is, but I wish there was a way you could turn the Pro Magic Keyboard all the way back. Like if you could flip it all the way around, and you can't.
There is some designs that you can make that can do that, but not the one that they've got implemented right now. And I think maybe the idea of having the option to have one or the other is a lot better than trying to make kind of like what the iPad's doing right now. They don't have an all-in-one. It's a very segmented experience. It's like part iPhone, part Mac, but none of like the best parts of it. And that's kind of the same with how it would be for these two type of covers for the iPad, or the accessories at least, where you either have like the Surface approach or the Apple approach, in which, from my experience, the Surface approach was fantastic for the 5 to 6 years that I used it. It was great. It was great for drawing. It was great for note taking. If I needed to type something up, just quickly flip the keyboard. The stand is already kicked out. I just have to type very quickly. And then if I need to go back to drawing something, I can either keep the keyboard out and draw and kind of do that weird kind of palm on, palm off type of situation, or just quickly flip the keyboard. It already recognizes that it's not in laptop mode or whatever, or I just kept it in whatever mode it was, and then immediately write. So you have your pros and cons with either. I think Apple's solution isn't bad. I think they could easily fit the function key, the function keys in there. It'd just be skinny. And even so, you're not using the function keys 24/7. You use them like every once in a while, like, brightness up, brightness down, that's it. Or I don't think people even use the play pause functions that much. If anything, it's either volume up, volume down, which there's already a volume rocker on the side of the iPad, or that's kind of it. Or I don't know. So I think Pro keyboard, or the Pro, the cover that they've got right now for the iPad Pro definitely needs function keys. But at least with like this new iPad folio cover, it's nice. I think something that they can maybe learn from Microsoft is you technically have like a lot of different ways that you can angle that kickstand, but it may not stay in that orientation while you put pressure on the iPad. So something about like adding ridges to the back of that keyboard, so that way when it's out, they're face down, and then when you flip it back, they're face up, and that's when the kickstand can kind of engage these little ribs and all that. And that's how you get different settings of whatever angle that you need. So maybe that's something that they can implement. But otherwise, I don't know. They should definitely add this to the rest of the lineup because it's a neat design, but maybe refine it a little bit more.
Yeah, I guess the biggest downside of it is just you don't get an extra USB-C port, which is kind of nice, but iPad people probably aren't doing that anyway.
Yeah, so. I guess when's the last time you plugged in two different things to your iPad where you needed both ports?
Well, the real question you should be asking is when's the last time I used my iPad? Because
I think there's a whole bunch of dust bunnies on it underneath your desk right now, so probably a while.
someone posted in Discord. They were like, "Wow, Drew has his iPad in the same place I do. It's just like dead under the bed." I was like, I wonder if Apple has the data on how many dead iPads are just sitting around doing nothing.
I mean, sending you guys in the Discord my dream iPad scenario and
your dream pad.
My dream pad scenario.
Okay.
Well, that didn't go according to plan. It wants me to sign an I, but that's not doing that. All right, let's do it here.
At least with my,
I do that all the time. And when you open Discord on the iPad and you haven't signed in a while, it's like log in via QR code. And when I tap that, the camera is inversed. It's like it thinks landscape is portrait and portrait is landscape.
Oh, jeez.
You have to try to think backwards to get it to scan the code. Oh, it's so broken.
It really
at least
is.
with my iPads, I've got either on the piano, sitting there collecting dust, or I guess the other one is here in the office with me, in which I usually use it in bed or on the couch, or in the office sometimes. So, at least mine are collecting dust bunnies. It's a Quadrant.
It is a Quadrant. And the Quadrant goes as portable or spec'd out, consumer or pro. And this involves renaming and actually having more of a new lineup. I would make it this simple, where if you want a portable consumer device, you get the iPad mini, the mini iPad, as I call. A spec'd out consumer one is the iPad Air as it kind of stands today. Not the iPad 10th gen. iPad Air has Apple Pencil 2. It has a newer A chip. It has.
I assume everything has Apple Pencil 2 in this quote.
It has a laminated display, which the iPad 10 does not. Like there's many things. So the iPad Air as it stands today would be the consumer spec'd out version or spec'd out. All of these assume when I say spec'd that I also mean that like it has the the smart connector, and yes, they all have Apple Pencil 2 support. Now on the Pro side, the iPad Pro, I would say something controversial here and say kill off the 12.9 inch and have the 11-inch iPad Pro for that one. And renamed the, and that's the portable one because it'd be lighter and more convenient to use. But the Pro spec'd out version, what I would call the iPad Max, I would make that the 12.9 or even bigger. That one is the one that gets Mac OS. That's the one that gets the center stage manager if they were to do software locking. That's the one that gets the better camera array with LiDAR and all that jazz. That's the one that gives. That's the one that gives you the hovering thing for the new iPad Pro. You know, if you want to hover that, that's the one that has the center FaceTime camera while offsetting it one way or the other. That's the one that has Face ID and not Touch ID. So the Pros can have the Face ID. Consumer has Touch ID. But I would just kind of that's what I do. I clean it up. The only problem I have with this lineup, though, but this is my dream lineup, so I don't really care, is the iPad Mini and the iPad Max are standalones in regards to they involve like you're not reusing the chassis the same way. They are one's really really small, the other one's really really big, so they feel more niche than I would try to market this thing. But
this is basically the iPhone 13 lineup.
Yeah,
and the iPhone 13 lineup is something I'm damn proud of the iPhone 13 lineup. That's the golden standard. Everything they did, hardware last year, with the exception of iPad, with the MacBook and with the iPhones, killed it. Absolutely killed it. This would have no Apple Pencil Gen 1. This would have no non-laminated displays.
Budget iPad here.
Huh?
But
now the budget iPad. Right? If you're trying to save money, iPad Mini. It's smaller and like it. I tiered it in a way from left to right, top to bottom, cheapest to most expensive. So iPad Max is the one that's going to cost you 4 figures, and iPad Mini will be, I don't know, $450, $499 or whatever, like the cheapy one. So simple, clean, and it fixes most issues and purposely very little overlap in a way that I can work with. If you want to spec out Air, the difference between the Air and the Mini is that the iPad Air does work with the cases. You can dock the iPad Air to the Folio or the Magic Keyboard, excuse me, or you can get the Folio. And by spec'd out, that's the one that offers the
Smart connector.
Oh wait a minute. Well, there's two things. One, they all get center stage. I don't know if I addressed that because I don't know if the iPad Pros have center stage. They do? Okay. So center stage.
Yeah, they got it before everyone else.
Everybody gets center stage. Everybody wins.
Wow.
Center stage. Spec'd out iPad Air gives you higher storage configuration. I would unify the storage because an SSD is an SSD. I would make that up to a terabyte or two if that's what you want it. I would give you. I would open up the 4-speaker array.
Vote for Randy.
Vote for me. That's right. Yeah.
My only big caveat with this Quadrant, which really drives me up the wall, is you have it mini iPad and not iPad mini, and everything else is iPad blank.
What's interesting is what bothered me is you didn't call it MaxiPad.
Another bingo for
when
the
I said
audience at
when I
home.
said mini iPad when I first wrote that, I was like, I'm gonna rename these iPads, but then I was like, I kind of like iPad Air. Screw it, iPad Air. And initially, I was just gonna write iPad.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, like mini iPad, iPad Pro, iPad Pro Max, 14. Get
So in this scenario, the iPad is gone. It's just every single one has a subname.
I am
so,
what remains.
Yeah, well, iPad kind of it's what it's what encompasses all of the iPads. So I want an iPad. So it's like, okay, what kind of iPad do you want? The Mini, the Air, the Pro, or the Max?
The
And that's when
MacBook
you get
was
to
gone
specify a little
for
bit more.
many years, and what took its place was the Air or a MacBook Pro. And likewise, the iPad it's not gone more so than it's evolved and caught up to the 2022, because the iPad is the iPad Air. And if you want ProMotion and refresh rates or LED or mini LED, excuse me, you go to the Pros. The Pros will give those brighter nits, give you all the zhuzh that you want.
I love my zhuzh.
I love my zhuzh too. The iPad Max is the
I
one
don't think Tim would like your Quadrant because the budget iPad is the best seller, but I do think Steve would like your Quadrant.
I'm a product of my time, Drew. As much as I don't like to do that,
I like your Quadrant more too.
I've always been a fan.
I think this is cleaner.
Needs to be simplified.
You know what's funny is as you guys were talking about this, I was trying to consciously be like, how could I sell this to Tim, not Steve? How can I sell this to Tim? And this is me being as Tim focused as possible, which is why I address the Mini and the Max would have new chassis, but effectively iPad Pro and the iPad Air, because remember LiDAR and all that only goes to the Max now, would use the same chassis. It would still be it would be the 11-inch iPad.
Yeah.
So
no, I think that's a smart call.
I would do that.
The people who want LiDAR are weird. I don't. Those
people who
will
want
pay
LiDAR
whatever
are the
they gotta
people
pay.
who pay for the iPad Pro 12.9.
I've had arguments with those people, and I'm like, yeah, you could restrict the Pro camera to the bigger iPad, and I don't think it would probably upset that many people. I mean, some would be like, well, but I want the 10 megapixel ultra wide sensor on the 11. It's like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
You just
No,
want
you
to
don't.
feel special.
Yeah. So that's what I would do. That's how I would draw. That's how I would
I like that.
draw this up.
That's probably how I'd do it too, if I was designing it. But I feel like Apple's been listening a lot lately, which is why I'm more direct with the video titles and stuff. So this may sound crazy, but would you guys admit that we have some level of influence if Apple does add macOS in the future?
Yes, absolutely.
Could
we were
argue
in a
that
commercial.
We pushed a little bit.
I'll shift the blame to you. I'll sit by and be like, yes, but no. But sure,
I own
Drew,
it.
I think you put the spotlight on it fantastically in your most recent video. I think you.
Oh, thank you.
I think you made your case very eloquently by breaking it up, and then also having like the technical side of criticisms, and then more of the I guess more financial / opinionated side of criticisms and all that. I guess they're all opinionated, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You had
I just picture the Apple boardroom with my video playing, and they're all just like,
this ginger here says we need
I
to
don't
do
like
this.
how he's mocking Craig. How sad is that? How great is that? How terrible
Craig's
is that?
getting really like self-conscious about his.
I love how you actually have a
mannerisms now.
storyline though. Like from the last one where he starts crying to the next one, you're like, all right, let's talk about the good.
So
like I actually like.
This is
There's a story arc.
Tech season 5.
Yeah.
Episode 4.
Who
And
needs
I
Love
still don't know
Louise
what
when you
happened
have-
to Tim. What did he do with Tim? I'm invested in the story. I'm invested now. Yeah, I love
That's
it.
funny.
It was a good
Yeah,
video though.
it's great.
I enjoyed it.
All right. I know we got to wrap up, but I have one last question for you guys.
right.
Since we started a tiny bit earlier than we needed to, but how did you feel about having a site refresh again, but still having like hash flags on Twitter, and then like a 9-minute event? Do you like that? Don't like it?
There's it's a double-edged sword a bit here because I do like it if it's done right, but what a terrible iPad this is that I don't like anything about it. Hey, listen,
Do you think they knew the products were bad, so that's why they did it this way?
a little bit. I mean, come on, a little bit. It might be also a bit of a logistical. It's like, well, listen, we kind of want to, it makes big events mean that much more when it requires press. But there was nothing press worthy about flying people out to California to watch such a sad cleanup of it. But I will say,
Such a sad-
when the winner of this
Very
week,
dirty mop.
I don't have it with me. I forgot to grab the prop.
Basically, I picture the prototype team came to Tim and they were like, "Here's the new iPads," and he was like, "I'm not announcing that. You guys gotta figure out a way.
Yeah.
You gotta do
Look,
something."
Site refreshers, I'm okay, but not everything's to have a production out of it. Because I don't know if I would be sold that much harder on it one way or the other. Do the events when there's something to announce. There was nothing to announce with this, so that's why I'm on board with it, but I don't like how this week went. When the winner is the Apple Siri remote because of USB-C, that's a problem. That's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah.
All right.
I do give them credit for making an iPad that yellow with the new iPad. That is a really
Somebody
yellow
needs to
iPad.
hydrate. Yeah,
That's
you need to
Someone
hydrate.
did their job.
I mean,
Someone in the paint department was like,
How yellow do you
Okay,
want us to
just-
make this? Yes.
it is yellow, and I love it just because, like, we always criticize Apple of, like, dulling down the colors, not really, like, going with a solid
Yes.
color. It's like, oh, it's kind of a hue of red.
right.
And instead, it's like, here's yellow. Here's blue.
That's why there was a price hike. I think it all just went to the paint.
It's all pink.
Although there's no space gray or even a midnight.
There's
You
a
know,
space,
it's all light.
well, I mean, there's not space gray, but there is a regular silver, gray, whatever it is. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
think
but
you
that
need
blue
space
is a
gray.
bright
not it.
blue.
Is
Yeah.
it a bright blue? It's darker
Yeah.
than
the colors
the
and
iPhone.
the
12.
camera placement
13?
and the keyboard.
Right.
That's probably the only good parts about this.
Yeah. I think it holds promise
Alright.
for the next generation, which maybe isn't the best. That's kind of like Mac OS speak. This cleaned up a bit, or it could be cleaned up really well.
It's like, wow, now we know exactly what to do next year. Not that.
Exactly.
Not that.
All right.
With free ideas, Craig, free ideas.
Take them.
You can just take these.
How great is
All right.
that?
How cool is that? Thank you all for tuning in. We'll catch you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Bye.